I married a rich man for his money, and now his ring is slowly killing me. My husband told me he'd kill me on the night he proposed, and I just fucking laughed. Not a big laugh, more like a puff of air, a disbelieving little sound that died in the cathedral-like silence of his conservatory. Moonlight poured through the glass ceiling, turning the exotic plants into skeletal silver-blue ghosts. He stood before me, not handsome, but carved, like a statue made of expensive, unforgiving material. His name was Cassian, and he was my ticket out of a life spent smelling of cheap grease and other people's cigarette smoke. I'd met him at some fundraiser I'd blagged my way into with a dress I couldn't afford and a story I'd practiced in the mirror. He was older, with salt and pepper hair and eyes that didn't seem to have a color, just a depth. He didn't flirt, he appraised. 2 dates, and he was talking about permanence. A month, and he was on one knee. That's when he told me. He held up the ring. It wasn't on a velvet cushion. It was just sitting in his open palm, a monster of an emerald set in platinum. It was the color of a deep-sea kelp forest, so dark it drank the moonlight. It didn't sparkle. It pulsed, a low internal glow like a bioluminescent predator. "I need you to understand something, Azami," he said, his voice calm and level, the way you'd state a law of physics. "My devotion is absolute. I have chosen you. If you accept this, you must choose me in kind. Forever. If you ever try to leave me, if your heart ever truly strays, the bond will break. And so will you." I looked from his dead serious face to the impossible jewel. I thought of my damp little apartment, the rattling window, the way my landlord looked at me when the rent was late. I thought of a future that wasn't a constant, grinding struggle for survival. "That's a little dramatic, isn't it?" I'd said, reaching for the ring. His hand closed around mine before I could touch it. "I am never dramatic." He looked straight into my eyes, and for a second, I felt a tremor of something real, something cold and ancient. But the emerald was right there, a tiny, captured universe of wealth and safety. I let out that stupid little laugh. "I choose you," I whispered, and I let him slide the cold, heavy thing onto my finger. It fit perfectly, like it was made from a mold of my own bone. The first year was a blur of things I'd only ever seen in magazines. Marble floors so polished they looked like water. Staff who would appear with a glass of champagne before I even knew I was thirsty. A black card that never, ever declined. I was good at my new job. I smiled, I hosted, I wore the clothes and said the right things. I was Cassian's beautiful, placid wife. And the emerald was always there, a cool, heavy weight on my hand, a constant reminder of the deal I'd made. I noticed the small things first. The way the maids would clean my vanity but never touch the ring, even if I left it on the dish. They'd clean around it, their eyes darting away from it like it was radioactive. At parties, I'd see other wealthy wives glance at my hand, their smiles tightening for just a fraction of a second before they'd look away. It was a flicker of something. Pity? Fear? I couldn't tell. The gilded cage started to feel less gilded and more like a cage. Cassian was possessive in a way that felt quiet and suffocating. He never raised his voice, but his gaze was always on me. He always knew which room I was in. I felt less like a wife and more like a prized porcelain, kept safe on a high shelf. I decided I needed a break. Just a day. I called my old friend Noemi, the only person left from my former life. We made a plan to meet for lunch downtown, at a little cafe we used to love. I was buzzing with a feeling I hadn't realized I missed freedom. I got in the Bentley the driver had prepared for me. As we pulled out of the long, winding driveway, a headache started behind my right eye, a dull throb. By the time we passed the estate gates, it was a spike of hot iron. My vision started to swim. The lush green of the trees on the roadside turned a sickly, washed-out gray. A wave of nausea so violent I had to bite my tongue to keep from throwing up all over the cream leather seats. "Stop," I croaked. "Turn around. Take me back." The driver didn't question it. The moment the car turned back towards the estate, the pain began to recede. As we rolled back through the gates, it vanished. Completely. I sat there, breathing heavily, my skin clammy with sweat. The sickness was gone as if it had never been there. I looked down at my hand. The emerald seemed darker now, its green heart almost black. It felt warm against my skin. That night I tried to take it off. I ran my hand under hot, soapy water, twisting and pulling. The ring didn't move. It was like it had fused to my finger. I got some olive oil from the kitchen and slathered my hand in it, pulling until my knuckles were raw and red. Nothing. I started to panic, a real, frantic terror clawing its way up my throat. I was breathing in ragged gasps, yanking at my own finger like a madwoman. A sharp, grinding pain shot up my arm, so intense it made my vision flash white. I screamed. It wasn't the pain of a too-tight ring. It felt like my bone was twisting in on itself. I collapsed against the marble countertop, cradling my hand. My finger was already swelling, turning a mottled purple around the platinum band. Cassian found me there. He didn't look surprised or concerned. He just walked over, took my throbbing hand gently in his, and examined the ring. "I told you," he said, his voice a soft murmur. "It's a part of you now." That was when the denial finally shattered. This wasn't a joke. It wasn't a metaphor. It was real. I was trapped. Time started to move differently after that. Days bled into one another, each one a perfect, sterile, beautiful copy of the last. My laughter became a performance. My smiles felt like they were cracking my face. Every time I had a thought that strayed, a flicker of longing for my old life, for freedom, for another man's touch, the ring would grow cold. An icy, biting cold that seemed to sink right into my marrow. I started having nightmares. Not about monsters or ghosts, but about being trapped in green, crystalline mazes, the walls closing in, my own screams echoing back at me with no sound. One night, during a silent, miserable dinner, I finally snapped. "What is this thing?" I whispered, my voice trembling. I held up my hand. The emerald caught the candlelight, flaring with a malignant green fire. "You cursed me." He set down his fork and dabbed his lips with a linen napkin. He looked at me, and his expression wasn't angry or defensive. It was almost curious, like a scientist observing a specimen. "Cursed you?" he said, tilting his head. "No, Azami, this is a covenant. You wanted this life. The emerald simply ensures you hold up your end of the bargain. It binds your will to the choice you made." He reached across the table, his fingers brushing against the stone. "It's ours. And it knows when you forget that." His calm, transactional tone was so much worse than rage. It was the detached finality of it. This wasn't a punishment. It was a feature. I stopped fighting. What was the point? I played the part. I became the perfect, serene wife. I smiled and laughed and hosted. I let him dress me up and show me off. My heart was a cold, hard little stone in my chest, a perfect match for the one on my finger. But I started to watch the ring. I'd spend hours just staring into its green depths, and sometimes when the light hit it just right, or when I was exhausted and my guard was down, I'd see things. Flickers of movement. Quick, impossible images. I saw a woman's face, blonde hair fanned out like a halo, her blue eyes wide with a terror so profound it made my own breath catch. Then she was gone. Another time, I saw a hand with dark skin and long, elegant fingers clawing at something just beyond my view. Gone. I saw fragments. A tear-streaked cheek. A mouth opened in a silent, unending scream. I wasn't the first. I don't know how many there were before me, how many other women had made the same choice, had worn this beautiful, terrible thing. I wasn't his beloved wife. I was the current acquisition in a collection. Now, when I look in the mirror, I don't just see my own tired, haunted face. I look at the emerald on my hand, and I see the cage. I see the faces of the women who came before me, their silent screams trapped forever in its facets. And I wonder, with a cold, dull certainty that has replaced all other feelings, how long it will be until my own face is the one I see screaming inside the stone.